I wasn't aware of Patriots Day. Is it a uniquely Boston thing? And how much is this film a Boston story?
It's a local holiday, but this is a Boston story, but this is also something that's happening all over the world. But you know what, me being a local Bostonian, I felt so much pride and appreciation for how people responded during this horrific tragedy, and how they came towards the problem and united. And it's a very special message that we need to get out there. I mean, these things are happening, like I said, all over the world, and they will continue to happen, but we need to continue to come together and embrace each other. And that gives me a lot of hope and inspiration.
Well, Mark, you're so associated with Boston. Was there a personal incentive for you to make this film?
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't just like, okay, I need to do this because, the wounds are still fresh. But then as I realized, well, A, they're going to make the movie regardless. And even though the wounds are fresh, this stuff does continue to happen. So not to repeat myself, but they will continue to happen. So we have to show that love will always conquer hate. And when I realized again how proud I was of how everybody handled and reacted towards the situation, I thought, you know what? It's not that it's too late. It couldn't be soon enough. And we need to make this film and get that message out there.
Right. How great was the need and the desire for accuracy in telling the story?
Pretty strong. I mean, we are going into a community about 3 years after the event. People are still, the event is very present in people's minds, and the grief is still there, and the pain is still there. And we were very clear about one of the main reasons we wanted to make this film was to show how this community came together and to show how love really did win that day at the end. In the end, we believe that. And that we felt was a very strong reason to go and do this film. That being said, we couldn't go in there and tell people we were going to make a film about this event but change everything. I want to make a movie about you, but you're not quite interested enough, so I'm going to pay no attention to who you really are. I mean, it would be obviously preposterous. So Mark and I spent a lot of time with the members of the community that were in the film, and also members of the community that for various reasons just there wasn't space or time, but to make sure that we were able to tell the real story as best as we possibly could, because we knew that this movie was going to be seen by the members of the community, and if we made up a bunch of stuff and weren't accurate, we were going to get ripped apart, and we certainly didn't want that to happen.
Well, and certainly I think there was a huge sigh of relief when people realized that I was going to be the guy in the movie and in control, but that also meant that I would be held accountable. And I like to go home and be welcomed with open arms. And so, everybody knew what the stakes were, and everybody was committed. This is not the kind of movie where it's about your individual experience. This is about honoring these people and telling the story and getting it right. And of course, with 60 Minutes, and how they have obviously a reputation as well. And they want to make sure that this is as accurate as possible.
Right. Given that the character you play in the film, Mark, is a composite of several people, why was that decision made?
There was no one police officer who was sort of Iron Man or Superman or that did it all. And talking about authenticity, because it was such an ensemble film, we needed some character to anchor this film, and that we had the idea that it was a police officer made a lot of sense. And when Mark and I started doing our research, then there was no one cop. There was a cop who was at Boylston Street where the explosion went off, who took control of the crime scene, and that was one person. There was another police officer who had a very good understanding of that area, and he knew where the surveillance cameras were, and he was able to help the FBI recreate the scene, and in doing so, he was able to identify the brothers. That was another police officer. There was a third police officer who just didn't sleep the entire time and happened to be there when they pulled the younger brother out of the boat. And what we decided is, rather than create say one cop did all of this, which would just offend obviously the other cops, we were very public. We said, look, we're going to create a character who everything that happened really did happen. It was just happened with three different people, and Mark's going to play a compilation, a composite of those three.
Well, it's also, this incident was well over 100 hours, and to be able to figure out how to tell the story in 2 hours was not an easy thing to do. So.